Hi students, well, and we're in part 2 of the Italian Baroque. Now before we get into it though, I want to clarify, just in case I didn't emphasize it enough last class, that while we are looking at the Baroque period, which is the 1700s, art historians define this further by region. So we're looking at the Baroque in Italy, the Italian Baroque, and then we're going to go to Spain, the Spanish Baroque, France, French Baroque, Dutch Baroque, or the Netherlands, Flanders and the Flemish Baroque, England and the English Baroque. I emphasize this now because when I put one of these images on your next exam or your first exam, and I ask you for the period style, I don't want you to tell me Baroque. That's incorrect. It's Italian Baroque or Spanish Baroque or Flemish Baroque. You have to be specific with these period styles for the Baroque period. Okay, now back to part 2 of the Italian Baroque. We looked at sculpture and architecture last week. This week, painting. Our first painter or first artist for, not this week, this day, sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you there. This day, our first artist for today is Caravaggio. Now his full name is Michelangelo Merisi da Caravaggio, but to not confuse him with the genius, brilliant Michelangelo of the Renaissance, we call him by his last name, Caravaggio. Now Caravaggio is a tremendous influence on the Baroque, and he establishes a distinct style that his followers are referred to as Caravaggisti. We'll even look at a Caravaggisti in today's class. Now, he was born in northern Italy, and he moved to Rome because, remember, that's where the money's at. That's where the commissions are coming from. However, we don't really know a lot more about him. What we do know about his personal life is based on the police records. You heard me, police records, because the boy was always in trouble. He got arrested for throwing a plate of artichokes at a waiter. Lots of bar brawls. In fact, he died rather suddenly after fleeing Rome. He got into a bar brawl and accidentally killed the man. And he was a fugitive and he ran out of Rome and he was wandering all around Italy on the run when he caught malaria and died. I know, it's crazy. His crazy life, it matches his very bold personality. He was extremely outspoken against the Renaissance principles of perfection, against those beauty, perfect images by Raphael and Leonardo. And he once was criticized as being an anarchist, that he was threatening Italian painting and he was going to ruin all of Raphael's hard work. Why he was so critical of the Renaissance is because he preferred more naturalistic, more realistic representations rather than the pretty boys and idealism that we see in the Renaissance. He wanted to show his figures to be real, rough and tough, and to put these religious figures in this more honest depiction. It goes in line with what the Counter-Reformation was arguing, that art is meant to cultivate piety. And so for Caravaggio, making his figures have calloused hands and dirty fingernails and pockmarks on their face, it wasn't to be disrespectful to these holy figures. It was a way to connect with us, because we have calluses and dirty fingers and pockmarked faces. So we can be like, oh, these miracles happen to them? They can happen for us. The genius of Caravaggio. Now, our first artwork by Caravaggio. It's called Musicians. And in Musicians, what we're looking at here is 3 young men, and they are in the act of playing some music. Anytime in art you see a mouth open, there's a sound coming out, so we also understand them as singing. This guy's adjusting his lute strings, and he's going to start plucking away. This man here, he's looking at the musical chords. He has his viola next to him. And then this guy's got a horn. You can see the horn right there. There's also, what? Cupid? Cupid, what are you doing hanging out here? Well, Cupid's plucking some grapes? This is crazy. Who is this for? What is this painting? This painting was paid for by this guy. Cardinal del Monte. I'm tempted to say the infamous Cardinal del Monte. If you are interested in the scandal and intrigue of the Catholic Church during the Baroque period, you're going to come across this guy. Cardinal del Monte, he was a lover of all good life, all good things in life, and he was a patron of the arts, patron of music, so he paid for art and paid for music. He loved expensive wines and decadence. He also liked the physical pleasures. It's alleged that he was a homosexual gay guy, and he had a harem of young men at his disposal. I know this is crazy. It's scandalous. Like I said, if you are interested in anything, email me and I can help you find some more scandalous tea about Cardinal Del Monte. Now, I'm not just saying this to bring scandal. I'm saying this because it does play into this painting that we're looking at here. Because Cardinal Del Monte was one of Caravaggio's leading supporters. In fact, Caravaggio for a time lived at Cardinal Del Monte's house in Rome. So this painting here is for the cardinal, and we see these young men, and there are these gorgeous details. You can see what Cupid is doing here with those grapes, plucking of those grapes, plucking of fruit, plucking of strings, plucking of the lute. Okay, so at the same time that you have music, you have food, wine, feasting. Well, what do grapes turn into? Smash grapes, ferment them. They turn into wine. And Cupid there, Cupid, the god of love, bringing us this wine, or making wine for us. So this is like sexy time wine. And then we got this music playing. Okay, think about music. Think about when you find out that a guy knows how to play guitar and all of a sudden he's like 10 times hotter. Music has the same kind of effect as wine and drink, song together. It's all, pleasurable, the pleasures of the body and sounds and senses. Ooh la la. To add to this kind of erotic sensuality of the figures, we look at these young men here and their mouths are open in song, but I don't mean to embarrass you all, but there's also like a little bit of a seduction to their eyes. They look directly at us, the viewer, and if we are paying for this, we're the viewer. Cardinal Del Monte is the viewer. So these young men are kind of seductively looking at Cardinal Del Monte. Oh my goodness. And this is really a painting of pleasure and the good life. Now, how could he go under the guise of a cardinal and supporting this type of art? Well, that's a question. That's a question I can't answer here. But what I can show you here is this is characteristic of Caravaggio's work, where we have figures who have ruddy cheeks. They have kind of pale skin, pudgy arms. They are more realistic than those pretty boys that Raphael paints. There's a honesty about these figures. Maybe they're a little tipsy, a little drunk. And this is characteristic of Caravaggio, who wants more naturalistic people in a naturalistic setting. If you're thinking, Miss Cortez, I don't believe you. Okay, we'll go to our next artwork and you'll definitely see these kinds of natural, more honest forms that are characteristic of Caravaggio.